As you guys probably know, the Lyst Index came out recently. So, of course, as we always do, we are going to be looking at what are the trending brands, what are the trending products of Q1 2025. Now, this is a question I get all the time. So, the Lyst Index has a formula, and the index takes into account shoppers' behavior, including things like searches on and off their platform, product views, sales. They also have a formula that incorporates social media mentions as well as activity and engagement statistics worldwide. And they track these stats over a 3-month period. So based on all of that is kind of how they come up with, this Lyst Index. It isn't a perfect science, to be very honest with you, and I have to have that caveat every time because it's not perfect. They're looking at social media things, but then sales, but they don't have all the sales figures, just their own sales. So it's not perfect, but it's a good indicator of kind of where the conversation is going, what the temperature looks like in fashion, what brands people are, constantly obsessed about over that period. So I think it's a good litmus test, but it's not perfect for sure. But as you can see, the hottest brands, we've got some interesting brands here. On Running is actually on the list for the first time. You also have COS, which is kind of like the first time they have sort of like can you call it fast fashion kind of brand in the top 10, which is very interesting. COS, of course, has been going from strength to strength. They have, COS Studio and stuff where people are buying a lot of it. And it's kind of like affordable the row. So lots of people are obsessed with COS because, that's kind of the look they're going for, especially this whole quite luxury thing, which I think is slightly slowing down as time has progressed, but it's still there. So lots of people are going to COS for their the row look to look like their old money. Quite funny. People are literally cosplaying a whole level of wealth. Quite funny. Of course, Miu Miu and Prada are up top, as has always been the case. Coach is also up there. Coach has had a lot of hit bags. They've been one of the brands that has been spearheading the charm trend alongside brands like Balenciaga on your bags, making loads of charms that people are buying. Miu Miu, I think it goes without saying, we all know why it's up there. Bottega Veneta, we know why it's up there. The Row, same thing that I've been talking about. Alaya makes sense because Alaya have had some of the best-selling products, especially their ballet flats. Those have gone insane. And every single brand has started copying Alaya because they've seen that Alaya has been selling those shoes like hotcake. So now every brand is making their own sort of ballet flat version. We also saw like Moncler, Ralph Lauren from the past one, Balenciaga too. We know why they're there. Kim's, they're having their whole shebang with Nike, and they're having they had their collaboration with the North Face not too long ago. So all of that has kind of played into why they are there. So yeah, that's the breakdown. Of course, here they're talking about the fact that there's been a luxury reshuffle. It's kind of hard to, keep up with. Simone Bellotti at Jill Sander, Matthew Blasi at Chanel, Louis Trotter at Bottega Veneta, Glenn Martins, Maison Margiela, Michael Ryder went to Celine. The designers from Parenza Scuola went to Loewe, Jada went to Dior. So just kind of talking about how this sort of musical chairs and fashion designer shuffle has really shifted how people are searching for things, and people are really intrigued on brands that maybe they weren't too familiar with because maybe a designer that they know or care about has shifted to a different brand. So that has been the case. So they've seen a surge in searches from many different places. They also talk about COS being the first high street brand to ever be in the top 10. The fact that there was a 44% increase in demand for COS thanks to the viral products like its barrel leg trousers, which is this quarter's 6th hottest product. So that's a very, very interesting thing. They talk about On Running too, which I'm quite surprised that it's taken this long for On Running to be here. On Running has been running circles around a lot of established sportswear brands. We've seen Nike really struggle recently because brands like On Running have taken a lot of their market share. There have been many reports on that. Them using Zendaya, the fact that they've had a lot of On Running in films. They had a good collaboration with Loewe when J.W. Anderson was there. So I think On Running has just gone from strength to strength. They're doing the lifestyle side good. They're also doing performance really well. They have a very interesting way that they work with athletes. They also have some of the coolest running clubs I've seen. So yeah, everything they've been doing and everything they've touched has turned to gold. So I'm quite surprised it's taken this long for, them to get to this point, to be very honest. They're also talking about all the sneakers and the hybrid sneakers that are trending, as well as the ballet shapes. And of course, last but not least, the para boot shoes that are really, really big right now that everyone is wearing. And also they saw a 412% increase of searches for things like flared jeans on the Lyst platform shortly after Kendrick Lamar was seen wearing flares. So there we go. Now we can see the trending product. Of course, the Celine jeans are right at the top. Makes all the sense in the world considering Kendrick Lamar. Some of these are quite surprising. I'm quite surprised that these Adidas Taekwondo shoes, at the top. I know a lot of people have been wearing those, to be honest, but not enough for it to be number 2 in hottest products. I don't really know about all of that. The Puma sneakers, definitely I can see that. I've started to see a lot of people wearing those on TikTok. Less so in person, but definitely on TikTok. The Salon Vanity bag is trending. The Miu Miu suede pouch is trending. Of course, the COS barrel leg trouser, which has caused the surge in COS's popularity that a lot of people are buying and wearing. Uniqlo colored socks is very interesting. I know that in the report they said this is the cheapest product that's ever been a top 10 product in their Lyst Index, which is interesting. But, really, socks, Uniqlo socks. That's crazy. That's actually insane. Uniqlo socks is wild. Then, of course, you have the Chloe mini ruffle dress and the power boot shoes. Also, something that they talked about in this index, if I can scroll back to it, that I found really interesting, was a section on Chloe, really talking about how well Chimena Kamali has been doing to push Chloe forward. And it's quite interesting that people were really, really lusting for this boho chic that people are missing, that we associate with, sort of like a Stella McCartney, Phoebe Philo time at Chloe, right? And she kind of brought that back. All the ruffles, the tulle, the see-through garments, the light garments, the flows, the tiers. A lot of people are obsessed with that. And a lot of her products have been selling like hotcake. And that's why, even in the top 10 in this Lyst index, you can see the Chloe ruffle dress is number 10. So yeah, they've been doing really well. They also talk about some brands that have been growing fast. I mean, Duran Lantink, it's mainly because of, I can imagine, Jean-Paul Gaultier and a lot of people not really knowing who this designer is, and then him being announced that Jean-Paul Gaultier and people really looking at his work. That being said, in fashion circles, I have seen a lot of people wearing the clothes. I've seen people wearing, there's a sweater that they make with sort of like hunchback. There's also one that they do that is kind of like a chest plate. I've seen a lot of people wearing those. It's kind of like a more wearable version of Ray Kawakubo's Comme des Garçons. If you think of like the Lumps and Bumps collection, the famous collection, it's kind of like a more subdued bump at the back. So it's like a hunchback, but it's kind of cool though. It's kind of like a cool, fun commercial piece, to be honest. But we'll see what he does at Jean-Paul Gaultier. That should be interesting. But like they said, Lantink is best known for remixing dead stock into sculptural, puffed-up silhouettes that spark online debate and discourse. The recipient of the LVMH and Walmart prizes, the Dutch designer has been named the permanent creative director of Jean-Paul Gaultier, as I've said. So there's been a plus 69% rise in demand this quarter. Dries Van Noten is very interesting. I've never really seen Dries Van Noten as a brand that's mainstream in any way. It's a very like fashion people love it, but outside of fashion, a lot of people don't really know about the brand. So it's very interesting to see an 11% increase in, searches. Of course, I will say that Julian Klausner, who's the current creative director at Dries Van Noten, has had 2 great collections already. The kind of tiny menswear collection, and then obviously the main collection, which is more of what his debut is. And so they're even saying here, I think if we read it, Julian Klausner's first fall winter 2025 show for Dries Van Noten was met with critical acclaim, continuing Van Noten's intellectual legacy. The internally appointed creative director ushers in a new era for the house. They're also saying it's been worn by Tracy Ellis Ross, Ayo Adebri, and Harry Styles. Actually, they've talked about the trending product being the suede sneaker. Actually, now that I think about it, yeah, those sneakers are popular because on Reddit, I I follow loads of different Reddit pages because as someone that covers fashion, I just need to know kind of what people are talking about. And one of the Reddits that I follow is the like reps, like fashion reps Reddits. I follow two of them actually, where people kind of post links to high quality fakes. Because I want to know, I can kind of tell what's trending based on what fakes people are buying. And actually, I think a week ago, someone posted a link of Dries Van Noten sneakers, like fake Dries Van Noten sneakers of like good fakes, which means that once they start making fakes of things, it's because there's a big market for it. Otherwise, why would they make the fakes? So that says a lot, actually. So now that I think about it, yeah, Dries Van Noten is very much trending. It seems to be mainly the sneakers, but I hope that through the sneakers, people, actually interested in the brand and look at all the different things that they do. I think their perfume line is amazing. I think that their clothing is obviously great. So I hope a lot more people look into it as a result. But reading on, they're talking about Levi's. One of the most iconic names in denim, Levi's maintained its category-leading status decade after decade. This quarter saw a continued partnership with Beyonce, exploring archival Levi's styles and the brand's storied history. I mean, yeah, Levi's is always going to be iconic. Worn by Beyonce, Selena Gomez, Austin Butler, and their trending products are the cinch baggy jeans. And of course, they have an image of Beyonce in Levi's. So that's the breakdown, guys. That is the complete rundown of the Lyst Index. Those are the trending brands and products. Let me know what you guys think. Someone is saying, I copped a pair of those Dries Van Noten sneakers last month. Yeah, like I said, once I thought about it, I was like, yeah, actually, a lot of people are wearing these sneakers. They are. They definitely are. No, I'm never going to stop wearing Dries. I don't even own that much Dries, to be honest. I have more Dries Van Noten perfume than I have clothing. I think I have one Dries Van Noten piece in my wardrobe, but I would love to get more, but I just need to find things that I like. But I'm not going to stop wearing Dries because people are now buying fakes. Like, I'm not that pretentious. Like, if I like it, I like it. Io, Debris, and Doechii are my favorite fashion girls right now, for sure. I also love the outfits they wear. I think both of them do come across like a lot of it is their stylist, but I'd also like to see them add their own kind of like personal taste into the outfits more and have a more collaborative effort. Because Aya Debris went from like not caring about the way she dresses to like being so fashionable. It's insane. Doechii, not so much, but it is kind of like a lot of stylists going on there. Wait, who's 43? Aya Debris. Wait, are you joking? No way. Wait. Aya Debris age. Okay, Aya Debris 29. I was like, there's no way. Aya Debris 43. I was like, what? You must be talking about someone else. I was like, Aya 43? Damn. I need to get some of her like youth serum or something. Oh, okay, Beyonce. Okay, I was about to say, like, I need some of that youth serum. If she's 43, then damn. I need to take her elixir or something. She needs to launch a product on how to look young. But yeah, anyway, guys. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind-the-scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club, where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.